Would you say this was a cult?
Well, there were many rules and customs that people might find strange.
Do you think they were so far out here in order to be removed from others knowing their business?
Yes, let me tell you more.
So what happened if a couple came here?
They weren't allowed to cohabitate, and no sex was allowed.
So they homesteaded this piece of desert from scratch?
They did?
Back in the day, there were movie stars and business moguls who frequented this area, is that correct?
Yes.
They were elected by God to be the last surviving members of the apocalypse?
Yes, at the end of the world.
So that cloud was the sign that they were looking for that told them that this was the place to be. Is that correct?
What's it all about? And it leaves you with a mystery.
Out in a remote patch of the Arizona desert, where one is just as likely to encounter a rattlesnake as people, far removed from any cities, is what's left of the decaying town of Agua Caliente. What you see today belies its history as a famous hot springs resort, a place once frequented by people such as movie stars coming for the relaxing waters and the health benefits they provided. Now, there are likely more people buried in the local cemetery than living in the town. 10 years ago, I first came to this area and noticed a dirt road lined with tall palm trees. I was intrigued, so traveled down it to see where it led. I drove into what looked to be an oasis of sorts, and was promptly greeted by a woman who was probably in her 80s. She went by the name of Star, and I also met an older gentleman. I talked with them for a bit. Before I left, Star handed me a bag of fresh dates, picked from her palm trees. She said to stop back by if I was ever in the area again. As it turned out, these were the 2 last remaining members of a group calling themselves the Children of Light. Who were these people, and what did they believe in? Were they a cult, or something else? Were they preparing for the apocalypse? When I returned 10 years later, Star had passed, and the Children of Light were no longer. What secrets were concealed within this place? What went on here? The deeper we delved, the stranger the mystery became. The more we uncovered, the more difficult the puzzle became to piece together. There was something around every corner, and containers and barrels filled with stuff and stashed in dark basements. We felt like archeologists entering King Tut's tomb. Rockhopper here, and I'm in the Arizona desert at a place with a strange and fascinating history. Who were the people who claimed to be the Children of Light, and what strange and weird things took place here? Today I'm here with Karen, and she's going to tell us the history of this place and walk us around the complex.
Come on in, I have something to show you.
All right, let's go check it out. So where are you taking me?
I'll show you the basement where all of their food is. Supply that was to last forever.
So they had a forever stash of food, huh?
And this isn't the only place.
So there's a basement here in this little house.
It's tricky.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
This is a lot of food. This is, what's in all these buckets?
Wheat, another wheat, hay wheat. It's basically, here it says flakes, rye flakes. So all of this is in some type of a grain,
So
all these buckets.
Every one of these buckets contains some type of grain.
And that's how they prepared their foods.
So these people were seriously preparing for the apocalypse then.
And this is cooking soybean oil or something. Cleaned, hard, red wheat.
So up on these top shelves, we've got all kinds of dried foods, peas,
And basically it comes
beets,
from one company.
wheat, triticale,
Parsley flakes.
dried milk, soybeans, pinto beans, lima beans, garbanzo beans, brown rice, spinach flakes, parsley flakes, butter powder, yam flakes, apple pieces, honey buds, raisins, and date pieces. All kinds of stuff. What's in this?
Well, there's soap down here, and I don't know if this is what it is. At the moment, there's certain soap that they used to do their laundry.
A special kind of soap.
Yes, it's a bar of soap.
Let's put that in the light so we can have a look at what this is.
And it's brown, and it does a very good job of whitening all of their clothes, because most of their clothes were white.
Okay, so they were mostly dressed all in white clothes all the time.
in a uniform.
Oh, they wore uniforms.
And it was red, white, blue, and gold. Handmade out of linen.
Wow. So this is where they would house their people?
Yes, this is one of the bedroom housings. One of the 12 bedrooms and bathrooms. So this could be probably if a family came in. I really don't know for sure who they housed here. I think I did read at one point it was built for a guest. So it's hard to say what they really used it for.
All right, well, let's go back and have a look. Show me the rooms here.
This is the bedroom. I have to take the honors of saying I cleaned it. The lighting isn't going to be very good.
Yeah, ceiling fan. Okay.
There is an air conditioner. This one works very well. Back there. I took the curtains out of a different house, cleaned them.
Yeah.
It was pretty messy in here.
And the bathroom's just right over here?
Yeah. And this house has its own hot water heater.
Okay. So,
Electric hot water. And it only runs hot water to the shower.
and as far as the electric goes, some of it's off-grid and some of it's not. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yeah, somewhat Arizona power.
Okay, so about 50-50.
Probably more Arizona power than solar. We haven't determined everything about how the solar and electric runs.
Okay.
That's complicated.
And so this is all the living room.
Yeah.
There were several newspaper articles written about these people. There's an entire little scrapbook right here that we're looking through that Karen found. They're called elects because they felt they were elected by God to be the last surviving members of the apocalypse.
Yes, at the end of the world. They had strong beliefs about the apocalypse. You had to be a certain person to be called an elect. Everybody wasn't an elect. I know that there was 18 at one time on the complex.
Interesting. So that tells you a little bit about that in this newspaper article here. So these people were preparing for the apocalypse, and that was their whole thing.
Yeah, preparing for the end times.
Wow, there's a lot of jars in here. So what's going on with all these jars?
They stored their dates in these, and when they made date syrup and other things, they put everything they made in these jars. As you see, this jar is probably full of something or another. I think it was liquid. Many jars. And then this is also storage area. It could be more grains. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it looks like grain back there. I can't tell if it's wheat or barley or what, but it's definitely grain of some sort. And all these boxes are completely filled with jars. This is Wren, and we're going to feed Quacker the duck and the fish in the pond right here. That's Quacker, the mallard. It's fish feeding time. What kind of fish are in here?
I don't know.
Oh, like koi. Look like koi. So Quacker can't fly, huh?
I don't think so, but I've never seen him even try. I think he's got it made here, so why should I bother? He gets fish food, he gets regular food, and he gets a pond, and he hides behind these bushes right here and spends the night.
Okay, so what is this?
So when they wrote and logged about their journey and what took place every day, they started with Tuesday, the 23rd day of the second month and the 21st year. So that's not 1921. That is the 21st year of them traveling as a group of children of the light. And then they would recite this, and then they checked off who was there when they recited that same saying every morning. And there are many little books like this. They made these books out of their own paper and stuff. They did elect, sew, and were on linen. Everything was made with linen. Elect John cut out and sewed on linen, needed start. So whatever the 21st year is, I could not tell you. Elect Paul, elect Rise, elect, I don't know if that's star or not.
Karen just pulled out this big trunk and she found a whole lot of uniforms.
These could have been for a child. Yep, these are children's that they had made for them. The gold and the white represents the purity of God. The gold represents the resurrection. Blue also represented something. And this is all handmade here by the ladies, and it all had to be linen. And I think they found that because of scripture. Red vest represented the blood of Christ. I can't recall what the blue meant.
Is there any men's clothing in this case right here?
No. This seems to be all children. But the men had to wear basically white pants. Or did they had a blue shirt or a white shirt. I think blue pants too. There's pictures with them in their uniform. The elects. If you were just a worker, you just wore anything. But the elects had to be in these clothing all the time.
Okay, so the women would have worn something similar with the gold on here then, just a larger size.
Yeah. And I think there is one in her room, in Star's room. This is where they grew all of their vegetables. It's a beautiful sight in their pictures that we found. They had to turn on their watering system. Back over there was their greenhouse. So they had a pretty good sized garden, and they grew pretty much all kinds of vegetables. I don't know if they did carrots. I don't really know what vegetables they did. I did find tomato seeds. I think they did tomatoes. It's a variety of different types of vegetables that they did.
So this complex was a self-sustaining place then. They grew all their own food and they stored literally tons of food, grains and such. So they were truly preparing for the apocalypse.
Right.
We're going into the honey house, and so what's going on in here, Karen?
Well, Paul is busy taking care of the honey that he has collected in the last weeks or so, and he's fine-tuning it so it's good to eat. At one time when they had the complex in full swing, they would harvest about 1,800 pounds of honey a year. And that was when the honeybees were really busy back in the 80s. They got all the honey from a fruit farm that's out and about a little bit. Well, this has got to be quite a process to clean this all up and take the wax off and spin it. Quite a story. And Paul's been here working since, I think you said 2021?
2021 I come here in Phoenix, but from 2010.
2010.
You're Romanian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And he loves his job. At least he's finding a cool week to work the honey.
Yeah, that's my passion. It's
That's
not
his-
business, hobby.
Did you do some of this in Romania?
Oh yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. I grew up with bees, you know. My father has a bees, my grandpa, 3 generations.
So you know a lot about this. That's great. And you get a lot of honey, and then you put it,
And
what do you-
this year was not so good. I know it was windy. Last year was the best year, but this year
No bees this year?
was bees, but you know, was windy. And when it's windy, the nectar is dry.
Oh,
Just can't take the nectar.
So when it's really windy, the bees don't come out so much. Is that?
Yeah, but so many die, you know, because windy turned down. Them.
oh, the wind.
temperature change was cold. A lot of working bees are lost.
There is a lot of working bees, and they don't like the cold wind, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last year was better because you
Oh
had
yeah, last year was perfect.
Perfect, huh? Yeah.
just the right amount of rain, not so much wind,
Yeah.
more flowers.
Oh, same flowers, but the temperature was good. If the temperature is good, they collect.
So we're stepping into what looks to be the arts and crafts room, is that correct?
Yes. But one of the elects was a talented painter, elect Joel, and he painted many pictures. There are even some in the house.
You got a lot of paintings on the wall here, and even on the other wall over here. Oh, more over here. So who did all these paintings?
Elect Joel,
All of them?
all of them. And many are religious sayings And so here you can see their uniforms. You don't see the gold on them, but that's kind of what they were. They had to wear clear nylon type. Here, like Joel's vision. That's Ezekiel. Oh, we struck oil? No, they struck water.
Yeah, they struck water.
That's why they moved here, was because of water.
That's why this was a good site for this complex?
Yes, because they had plenty of water out here in the middle of nowhere.
So they purchased this piece of land
Yes,
and they drilled and they found just a lot of water.
right. There's 3 wells on the property. They came here in 1967 and stayed in tents and a few RVs, and that's when they started this complex. They bought the property in 1965, and then they started this complex to build what they built. And somebody gave them quite a bit of money to help build this because none of them had an income. They lived on Social Security. All of the people that came as the elects lived on Social Security. Everything was done bartering, but yet if it was a service from the state, they had to pay for it and get money. So it's very interesting how this all happened, other than the big donation from a person in Indiana, I think it was, built by the people that were living here, other than maybe some things needed to be done professionally.
So this was just a raw piece of desert land when they came here, and
Yes.
they homesteaded this whole thing. They found the water they needed, and then they just continued from there on and built everything we see today.
Yes, and it's a non-profit area because it's a religious. No taxes were paid to the government or the state. I thought these chairs were just so cool, and I didn't want them to go to the dump because they have curved wood, and you don't see curved wood today. So I kind of saved them and put them in here. I want to clean them up. I found 2 of them outside getting kind of beat up and sun bleached. And then I think I found the other 3 in here, and I thought, well, they're not going to just go in the dump. And what I heard was Star had tea parties over in one of the patios, and these are the chairs that they sat on at her tea parties back in...
1960s, you think? 1970s?
Yes, I will talk about Star in a minute if you want. Like,
I noticed there's some more jars. This has dates in it.
yes.
So did anybody try and eat any of these dates?
Yeah, we did try, but they're pretty potent.
What happened?
They smelled...
Were they alcoholic?
Yes, you could tell that they had fermented. And it could still be sitting. No, this is probably the one they opened up because it was in the house.
So this stuff was like 100 proof dates, huh?
Yes.
We're coming in to this big shed, and Ren has something to show me. So these are all 55-gallon barrels?
Yep,
And these are all completely filled with food?
yep.
Wow, that's a lot of food. I mean, because there's all of those. And if you look behind here, all of these as well. And they go back there and way back. So yeah, these guys were seriously prepping for the apocalypse. Can we open one up and check it out?
Come on. See, we took some out of here.
Wow, okay, so these are just stocked full of food.
Yep.
And that's like a, what is that, a 25-pound bag of grain right there? Yep. I opened up this one and let's look inside here. Millet.
I shall be
And
right back.
it's about 15 years old. We took the top off a 3rd one and we're trying to get through this bag to see what's inside of it. And this barrel weighed probably 500 pounds. What do we have inside here? Red hard wheat. So each one of these bags is probably what? 5-6 pounds maybe, something like that.
This is red wheat.
Yeah, just all red
Red
wheat.
wheat.
Lots and lots of it. This thing is completely filled.
And grain hot cereal.
Okay, so there's some other stuff in there besides the wheat. So you said you ran into brown sugar, cereal, and just all sorts of different things. What's that one? Some sort of powder? Some kind of seasoning powder. That one's probably still good if it's just spices.
I think it is. You can see all the barrels.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see if I can get one of them open again.
So these bags that we've been pulling out are double vacuum packed?
Yep. See, you can see she's vacuum packed here. And then here's the inside bag, and it's vacuum packed. That's been sucked dry, then put in this one, and then redid again.
So there's a good chance that this is all still quite edible. Sugar, well, sugar never goes bad.
I mean, are you finding anything that you didn't know that would be in here?
I'm finding everything I didn't know would be in here. 'Cause I had no idea all this stuff would be in here. Wow, a lot of stuff, a lot of food. We just figured out that all of these are wheat grain, and you said they made their own flour here, right?
Yep. Made their own flour in the painting room where the grinder is. I don't know where all of it is. It ain't all right there, so somebody took it apart to clean it and didn't put the parts back. This is all children of the life stuff. What do they need a raft for?
Well, maybe when the flood comes, they can float away with all their wheat. Wow, and then there's all these boxes.
Over here.
Who knows what's in those things? Probably.
If I'm right, a lot of that's electrical. Because this is electrical there, and then you got wiring over here.
Oh, so they had spools of wire ready to roll.
Yep.
Boy, they really had pretty much everything you could ever think of here, huh?
And then some. And then try to figure out what's it for. What's this made for?
Huh, who knows?
You know, you look
Somebody
at the
knows.
stuff and you say, I wonder what they're doing with that, or what they made that for, or what's it all about, or whatever. And it leaves you with a mystery.
There are a lot of mysteries in this place. You gotta add all these 5-gallon jugs here, and you got boxes back there, and there's just stuff everywhere around this place.
They never put the doors always the same on the buildings. Either they open this way or they open this way. It's so confusing.
Oh, okay.
Or they open in and they don't open out. Anyway.
Those are all doors. That's a lot of doors.
Yeah, it's all doors.
Wow.
Did they take them off, or did they just buy a lot?
So they liked wheat and they liked doors. Like grain and doors. Tell me about all these bathrooms on the property.
Yes, on this complex, there are approximately 19 bathrooms throughout this, and the rule was that men and women were not to share the bathrooms, so all the bathrooms that are within buildings are one for men and one for women. And we are right now by the laundry area, so if they were doing laundry, they had to use these bathrooms.
So there was no cohabitation between men and women whatsoever.
That's true.
So even if they were a couple, there was no sex allowed on the property at all,
Right,
at any time.
right.
Looks like we're in the workshop now. Tell me about this.
This is one of many of the workshops within the complex. I don't know exactly what this one was for. It could have been built before the others were built. But it's kind of a little junky area right now, and dirty, but many stuff. They saved everything.
Did they reuse and repurpose a lot of stuff?
I don't know about repurposing, but I found this piece laying out by the gardens. So some pieces are just so ancient.
Because I imagine there was a lot of work that needed to be done on this property.
Yes. Got a lot of work as far as the pumps and the generators and the solars. Yes, they were busy doing a lot of things. Repairing. A lot of it could be donated. I have no clue.
So between all the ongoing maintenance and repairs and all the food growing, I mean, this was just a constant thing all the time, right? This is what they did.
Yes. And I'm sure the men were in charge of all of this. But I know Star did a lot of things that a tiny lady wouldn't have thought of doing.
So she was, what, about your size, roughly?
She was 5'2", and when she passed, she was about 90, less than 100 pounds.
And she lived to be how old, would you say?
91, approximately. It's a guess.
Okay.
She passed away in 2023.
Because I actually met Star about 10 years ago when I first drove up here. I was intrigued by the palm trees lining the road, and I wondered, where it went. And then she came out and greeted me, and I chatted with her, and she gave me some dates and maybe a couple of lemons or something before I left. Yeah, that was my encounter with Star.
And she was probably in her 80s and probably looked pretty good.
She was doing all right, I have to say.
This is the linens of bedspreads and some sheets that after they got done doing the laundry, they put them in here. And there's many linen cabinets throughout the complex. And then the laundry facilities. And I'm sure it was well used because there was a good handful of people here that had to do their laundry and keep things clean.
And also, they were all wearing white, which gets really dirty in the desert.
Yes.
So it would have been an interesting time trying to keep that white clothing white out
Yes.
here. Karen's going to take me into the main house here and tell me all about this and who lived here.
Come on in.
Thank you. Tell me about this place and who lived here.
Well, a variety of folks, mostly the Lex lived here. And this is their main kitchen on the complex and main social place that they did have. This is set up differently than it was originally. We have a fireplace behind. We have lots of books and videos. That was their entertainment because they did not have a television. So they watched videos and played games. At one time they had a ping pong table in here, and then this was their main dining room where they ate and socialized. I would say the elect women probably did the cooking for the people that stayed here. And there's, I think, a total of about 6 or 7 bedrooms in this complex here, and probably a total of maybe 10 bathrooms. They all had their own job, and everybody had to work. You could not stay here without working.
Okay, now you mentioned Star. Tell me about her.
Star was the last elect. She passed away in December of 23. She had her own room. If you would like, I could show you her own room.
Sure.
It's almost clean.
So did she kind of run this place, so to speak?
Yes, it seemed like she seemed to be the overseer of the whole complex with all of the other elects. They would have their elect little get-togethers, but mostly it was kind of like what she said and get done, you get it done. If you saw something that needed to be done, they did it. As far as their food, they had different places they stashed all of their vegetarian foods. It's quite a kitchen. As far as an antique wood stove, so at one time they only cooked by the wood stove over the corner, which it's mind-boggling to think of how many people were here, and they had kind of a small kitchen for making a lot of foods.
So originally when they came here, it was all cooked on a wood stove, a
Yes.
wood-fired stove.
Yes, that's a wood stove.
And they collected all the wood from this property.
Yes, lots of wood to use.
Wow, that seems like a lot of work.
Yes.
So this is the original wood stove they cooked on here. And you
Yes.
put the wood right down in here
Yes.
and fire it up.
And then the burners were on top. They've taken them off.
Okay, so there's a counter on here now that's put over the top, but that was originally the burners to the stove.
Right. And today it's probably valued at around $1,500.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
And out this little door is where they got the wood from the wood box.
Oh, there's a little wood box behind here.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Coming down into the basement of the main house, and wow,
I should have opened that. Oops.
look at all this.
Oh, look at here.
Look at all
This
these
is what I
jars.
wanted for the honey instead of the quartz.
Tons of jars down here. Look at that. And then there's 3 freezers down here as well, and numerous other things. Just all kinds of things back in along these shelves. Gobs and gobs of stuff.
Somebody have a field day with these jars.
We just opened up this box down here. We found some hash brown potatoes, and let's see what else is in this thing. Oh, what else do we have here? Oh, check it out. Banana slices, dried. You know what? I think I could take that along with me. That'd be kind of good for backpacking food. And who knows what else is in this thing. Let's see. Whole eggs. So that's probably powdered eggs. What's in this? Sour cream powder. Boy, these people have all kinds of things. And cornstarch. And something else over here. Sourdough bread mix. Everywhere we look, it seems, in this place, we find more emergency rations. As you can see, there's just a huge variety of things that they were stashing and storing here. All of this stuff is freeze-dried for the apocalypse. These jars all appear to be filled with dates. Lots and lots and lots of dates.
Go back 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And they go back, 4 back on the top. And
You got
on
4?
the bottom, yeah.
14 times 4?
We just found buckets
Canada.
of brown sugar. And yeah, it's all brown sugar. You know, sugar never goes bad, so we could actually still use this. Why do I feel like I'm raiding King Tut's tomb?
Yeah, but I got brown sugar now. I can make cookies.
Yeah, there you go.
Put an apple in it and it softens up.
And in these buckets, these are all filled with beans. Dried beans. Check what's in here.
More jars.
So it's like a root cellar or something, huh? Probably had this thing stuffed with food all the way floor to ceiling.
Well, it looks like more just empty jars. They could have had food in here.
I just found some dried apples, and I'm gonna be brave, and I'm gonna try one of these just to see, you know, how bad it is. I don't know, it's not that bad. I mean, it tastes like apple, it's just dried apple. I mean, who knows, it may have been here for 10 years. It's not terrible. Today we became tomb raiders. We got a bunch of stuff out of the basement.
This is where Elect Star stayed in her last days on Earth. She did pass away with cancer in 23. She pretty much kept everything as far as she wanted. She's got boxes and boxes of cards and greeting cards, Christmas cards, things that people sent her. And she kept all the business aspect of what took place in here. On the complex, I found many different points of interest as far as what went on here. When they put in the wells, when they put in the pool, there's lots of history as they kept when all these different things transpired. And that's in the sewing room where I've been keeping the history. But pretty much, and then I will show you, I think, a complete set of the uniform she had. So that's the red and the gold and the white, and then they had blue, the blue jackets they would wear if it was cool. And then they had white pants underneath these linen dresses. This vest is sewed in.
Here, let's have a look at this blue outfit here.
But that's the 4 colors that they had to wear every day.
Every day they wore the same uniform.
Right. The
And
women did.
The women did.
And the men would have the red and white vests and with a blue shirt, white shirt.
So if they were here for 10 or 20 years, that's what they would wear for that span of time.
Yes. Star was 14 when she arrived. She came out of Canada. When they first left Canada, there's quite a story. I think you can find it in an LA Times if you check on that. But she was 14 when she started following the group out of Canada, because Canada kind of chased them out of Canada because they weren't following the rules of Canada and they didn't like their beliefs, so they had to leave. And then they wandered around on the West Coast for quite a while, and then they wandered around through the Midwest, had other followers, followed their beliefs, and they just kept growing. And at the age of 14, she kept moving up the ladder to become a star. I think I found a picture of her with a group of all of the Lecks of this little girl that was probably 14 in that group. I only know about a couple of the Lecks. I don't know much about the beginning of them. I know the beginning was elect Gold. Her name was Agnes Carlson, and she kind of started the Lecks after they got to this point in 1967.
Now, were there some people from Indiana that came here?
They associated with the other religious group in Indiana, and maybe some of them did follow them out here. I couldn't tell you for sure. I have not read all of the articles that we've found, bits and pieces.
Some of the things you've read, though, there were some followers or some people who originally came here from Indiana to help create this Children
Yes.
of Light.
A lot of them came out of British Columbia, a pretty good group of them, and that's quite a story how they came out. And they were escaping the police and the Royal Patrol, whatever they call it.
RCMP.
Yes, we went out the back door, and all of a sudden the group of people were no longer, and I think it might have been a group of between under 30 that were leaving in the middle of night.
So it wasn't that they did anything bad in Canada, it's just that they were persecuted for their beliefs.
Right.
So that's kind of similar to the Mormons in the United States then,
Yes.
where they were persecuted, and that's why they ended up going to Utah, and that was their place. We're looking through an old newspaper from 1967, and we found some interesting information inside this.
Supernatural cloud formed by the wings of 7 angels. Oh my goodness sakes.
This is an old newspaper
19
article here.
1967. If you look at this picture of this cloud, they say it looks like the face of Jesus. And it says, the supernatural cloud formed by the wings of 7 angels who had just met with Brother Branham. February of 28 of 63, 40 miles northeast of Tucson, Arizona. The cloud is 26 miles high and 30 miles across. It was first printed in the Life magazine in May of 63. And so that was their vision to come to this place because they knew there was water here and that they could sustain life living here in this spot.
So this cloud that was in the picture, so that cloud was the sign that they were looking for that told them that this was the place to be. Is that
Yes.
correct? Here's another shot of the cloud that they believe led them to be here. It was a sign from God, they thought.
Star's favorite flower was pansies, and so everything that she had, the writing paper she got, everything was covered with pansies. It's amazing. Even the lid on this box is pansies. There's so many things that were pansies. I don't know if this was too.
So
Pansies.
people gave her gifts?
Yep, these are mostly gifts.
We're going upstairs in the main house. Have a look at that. So, this is a pretty big room up here, I see. Oh, big.
This, just to say, there is 2 bathrooms up here also, 2 more of the 19. And this was their prayer room, conference room. I understand that they only use this December the 27th of every year, because that's what I've read, that this was only used that one day a year.
What was the reason for that?
They never explained it in the papers.
Oh.
I think it was probably the celebration maybe after Christmas. It's hard to say.
So nobody came up in this room except for one day every year.
Yeah. And this is a 16-foot table, and the chairs, I think there's close to around 20 of them. Yeah, you would wonder why would you not use this room more, because it was such a nice room.
This is the lower level of part of the main house.
This sign that says peace, purity, and perfection was one of their rules, that they wanted all of their followers to be that type of a person. Try to be perfect and try to be pure, and that's why they had the rules of no cohabitating between men and women. And they really wanted people to be peaceful and loving towards another. Star and the Lex let many people come here and stay and work, and they worked for just room and board, however long they wanted. And if they didn't do much work, they were asked to leave, because they couldn't just stay here and do nothing. Because with all of the gardens and all of the palm trees, and doing the date harvesting, they had to work if they were going to stay here.
So this was one of the guest rooms.
And I couldn't say how many people actually lived here at one time. They could house quite a few, but they all kind of came and went as the season, because the season of dates is from August through December, and the prepping of that. So they would come in different shifts. If they didn't want to be here in the hot, they weren't here. In the hot, you got to be preparing all of their vegetables that they needed and their grains.
How many people do you think possibly were here at the height of the season? Do you think there were maybe 30 people, possibly?
No, there could have been more, because I did find a Christmas card list. And at one time back in they always went by that funny year of, and I couldn't tell you what year it was, but there was a list of close to 60 people on that Christmas card list that they had. So if those people left and then they kept in contact with them, they got a card. There was many people that they knew, but as far as actually staying and working, it's hard to say how many people really. I have not found a number. Well, if we go into the historian area where the sewing room is, I could probably show you different things as to how they logged whatever they did. When to water the plants, when to water the trees, how long to do it. And they logged everything that they did for every day, all the different people that were here. Very interesting how they kept the history of keeping this complex alive. This is the sewing room, but I kind of transformed it into the history of the complex of Children of the Light. I had to accumulate it to some place, and this is about the best place I could find it. Things are just very old in here. They go back a lot of photos. This is pretty much all photos through here, and more photos, and nice antique sewing things. I think they're cool. Because this is where they made all of their linen clothing. Star was the talented seamstress that she sewed in here. I think she just got that nice new sewing machine, because I got a brand new box. The dresser's plumb full of fabrics. Anything in the drawers and such are full of fabrics. I will point out one thing that they did make. They made these sacks out of fabric. They used every piece they could. This one don't seem like a sack. But they tie them up and protect the dates. So the birds wouldn't get the dates. And after they were pollinated and started to form dates, they protected them. There was some hanging in the trees when we got here, but the wind has taken them out. So they made a lot of these bags for the date trees. They also made all the draperies that you see within the house. So they had drapery fabrics. They even did some of the upholstery on chairs. As we sorted, we found a container. I would say there's probably over 1,000 snaps. Seemed like they use snaps a lot. But this place also has a swamp cooler to keep it cool, and a little wood stove to keep them warm. So they utilize this room quite a bit. It says happy mending, happy sewing. It's quite a fascinating room.
Now, I noticed behind you here, is this a newsletter that they had going on, or what is this exactly?
This is basically their service sheets. So when they had their services, they would read the magnification of the family of God. This is kind of what they believed in things.
Okay, so this was their belief system.
Today, well, here's kind of a newsletter. God's warning today. There's a lot of this has to do with their religion. Their songbooks. They're very old, handwritten verses. And also, a couple of the lects were poetic, and so they wrote poetry. But some of them have seen their day. They are kind of beat up, so I don't know. This is what they use for song. And Elect Joel was the pianist, and so was also Elect Star. They played the big grand piano that was out there in the living room. Some of this information, Elect Philip was a big historian, so he's got binders and binders of lots of different things, and I haven't gone through any of this. This is kind of upside down because oh man, this is a huge book. as to what kept. Here's a picture of a dining room, their dining room out here where they would all sit. And as you can see, yeah, they got different pictures. And so if you go through any of this is one of the Lex at the piano.
So this is quite a big scrapbook that you have here. There were a lot of newspaper articles done on these people, is that correct?
Yes, many different. Just I quick happened to find this, 1987. But here's a picture of this lady here is Star.
Right there. So that's Star.
Elect. And she's with probably a couple of visitors.
And what about the top
Yeah.
photo? Same thing?
Yeah. It was one of the last ones.
This is elect Philip here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then who's the guy standing next to
Just
him?
visitors. It could be family, could be visitors.
Could be Dr. Andrew Weil.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looks similar.
So here's some more Lex. This one here I know is Burl, because I've recognized her.
Okay, and this is just another one of the newspaper articles following a vision.
Mm-hmm.
So these were very dedicated folks, right, to their faith?
Right. Yes, they were. Yep. They didn't allow swearing. They didn't allow fighting. Everybody had to love everybody. Oh, here's a picture with her by that original cook stove.
Okay, so that's Star there.
Yeah. And here's one of the beehives, elect Mark.
Now let me ask you this. Do you think that this was a cult?
No, I don't. I think it was just the way they were deciphering scripture as to what God wanted them to accomplish and become pure and peaceful and perfection. I think they really had a strong belief in that. I don't think you could call them a cult because they were too peaceful of people, a group of people, because they would let anybody come and stay regardless of how bad of a person they were. They wouldn't let, somebody that was murderer or something like that come and stay and help them out because I don't think a cult would have allowed that.
Even though they had some what might be considered by others as strange rules or regulations or a belief system or whatever, you don't think people from the outside looking at these people would have thought they were a cult situation?
Yes, they would have, because they wouldn't have understood what they were believing because they didn't enter in to understand it. So they were seeing it from an outside in a worldly way, so they had no idea. I still say, I feel that the people that did stay here and went by their vision were still Christians and believed in Christ, because a lot of times I don't think cults really have that belief. That's my personal thought.
Okay, to the outsider, the casual observer, this did look like a cult, but as far as you know, it really wasn't.
No. And that goes to the correspondence that when people came and visited and they write back and have such good remarks and about how loving and caring this group of people were, I can't see them being considered a cult or a sect.
Okay.
Not unless I'm totally wrong on thinking that, but that's my personal thought.
Okay, so basically their belief system was to be kind and compassionate and peaceful toward one another.
Regardless of what they had done wrong in life, yes.
Sounds like they had some pretty good principles then.
Right. They did not like the worldly views, which they called sinful, TV watching and partying and drinking. They didn't like any of that. So there was no drinking, there was no partying. Their partying consisted of just playing music and singing songs. I don't even know if they danced. I don't think they danced. So they were pretty strict on their real social activities and that sort of thing. They didn't want to participate in outside activities. And that was their belief. They felt that was sinful.
So certain types of music were not sinful though, like you could have a guitar or maybe a piano and you could play
yes, but then they sang Christian songs.
that. So what is this thing? Somebody made
It's
this?
just, I have no clue. It's homemade, and I don't know what they call it. These napkins shouldn't be here, but they'll. It goes up to scale.
What other things might have been considered sinful to them?
The biggest one, I suppose, was the sexual act because they felt that was a sinful endeavor. And I don't know if they wanted to be like Paul. Paul said, sustain yourself. There was different things that they really were strong on believing. Another thing, they did not allow any beef in here. Somebody couldn't come in here and have a picnic and bring their own steak and make it. They didn't want any meat at all on the property.
So strictly vegetarian,
Right.
mostly grains.
Yep.
And they obviously saved a lot of dates.
Yes. And they sustain themselves basically through bartering systems. Bartering from their food to, I suppose, a job. They probably, if somebody was good at doing concrete, they gave him something back for doing the concrete or building something. Or people were just good-hearted and came and helped them build it because they had the talent. Or else the people that were here also figured out how to do things. But I do know they had to pay for the power that came in. They paid a good price to bring the power from the highway in and have electrical here, even though they are already set up solar as well. Because part of this room is on solar, so there's no electric in it right now. Part of the big house is all on solar.
These are the batteries. These aren't your everyday batteries.
Okay.
And then when they didn't have electricity and they didn't have power, then they had their own big generator, diesel-driven generator.
Okay, yeah.
Big diesel generator. There was your diesel fuel, and this runs and gave them electricity before they had power brought in.
If I'm not mistaken, I read an article, I want to say 1992, that they got the electric in. That isn't that long ago. I think I found an invoice. There was one other thing that I found the other day was a piece of paper that showed the purchase of the property, the deed for the purchase of just the property.
Do you remember the date on that?
It was 1964 or 3. Somebody was purchasing a property for the people that were coming, and they were coming, and they got here in 67, put up their tents, and says, okay, let's do something here. And started to make it what it is today.
This is the original travel log of one of the elects that was traveling across the country to get here.
As you notice, it's Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Canada, down into South Dakota. They're in Minnesota. Here, this might be California at a certain time. This is 59. And they call it the 10th year, so you have to figure out what is their 10th year. So this is the 10th year that they started as this group of children of the light. Here they're down in Mississippi, and they logged every day that they stayed at different places. They stayed at churches and all kinds of different places. And I just thought it so interesting where they stayed, because I do that too. Wherever I've stayed in the last 25 years, I log every place.
Let's have a look inside this old station wagon. Wow, it's in amazingly good shape, all things considered. Yeah, there's no tears in the upholstery. Dash looks good. Check out the back. And this thing is big. There's a lot of room in this thing. You can go way back there. So you make these flowers out of paper?
Yes, it's a lot of paper. And then I put them in frames, or I make a card. I don't have any of my cards.
Oh, these are kind of cool.
It's called quilling.
Quilling.
Yes.
This is one of the old guest books here.
83.
So people would just come and visit and stay here for a while, maybe do some work.
Well, just come off the highway and see what this place was. Not so much stay, but I think it was a tourist place, per se. Canada.
So people from all over the world would come here.
Switzerland.
Oh, just like a guest. Yeah, just stop in and check it out and sign the guest book.
And this is the only ones I have found. This is 87. I think I put them in order. 87, 97. I don't know if they're all in order or not.
Okay.
Here's 87. People did sign a book, and I got a hunch that they gave a donation. And that's probably what the elects did some of the time, too. Plus, upkept the gardens and such. And all the workers, and if they wanted to come back and work, they were welcome to.
Here's an old scrapbook that shows some of the construction of the place as it was taking place here. Quite a lot of construction went on. It's a pretty big complex, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it is.
It's 80 acres, right?
Right. That's the pool.
Oh, that's the pool under construction?
Yeah, one of the
Is that-
shades.
Yeah. Now there's the windmill and water tank there.
Yeah, when they were putting that in.
And then something up there.
And an outdoor picnic.
More construction.
Okay, so there's their white pants and the blue jackets.
They got their outfits on, their uniforms, and there's more uniforms there.
I haven't really looked in this book. There's another lady I don't know. So here.
Oh, there's a picture with the full uniform.
She don't have her blue jacket though.
Here's another shot.
Oh, that's Philip,
It's Elect Philip.
I'm pretty sure.
So a lot of this furniture is actually still here. And there's the uniforms they wore. This is Elect Philip. Now, what part did he play here?
He was pretty much a worker, did a lot of things. He helped with the grapes. There's pictures of him doing grapes. They logged it unbelievable as far as keeping the history, which is amazing as to how they did that. And there was some of the elects were really close to dying. They would have kind of hospice care for some of them. So there's been a couple of just quirky things I have observed on this complex. And that's very few or no forks and knives, but many, many spoons because of their diet. That they only really needed to have spoons because they did not eat meat, so they didn't have regular table knives. And the other thing was with the uniform that they wore, the red, white, and blue and gold, as I was cleaning, I never found any underwear because some of these folks did not die here. And so what happened to their clothing other than just having their uniforms? And it just amazes me that they had socks, but they did not have any underwear in some of the belongings that were left here. And that's just kind of a quirky thing.
That is kind of an interesting quirk, kind of a mystery.
Yes, it is.
Especially when you consider that one of the big no-nos here was sex, and yet they're all walking around maybe with no underwear on. Well, tell me about this pool.
Well, what I do know about it is that it's Olympic size, and that Star allowed the children in the area from the Dateland Elementary School. She allowed them to come out here in the summer, and for $1 a day they could use this as their swimming pool, and they had quite a few activities, and there was swimming lessons possibly given to the children, but it was a good place for families to come out if they wanted to cool off in the hot heat of the summer. I don't know the real purpose why the complex built it. They probably felt it was just a good thing to have for activity for all the people that did come and go here.
Do you think any movie stars or anybody like that came out here and went swimming?
Well, I don't know for sure. They could have come in and looked at the place, but I don't know if they used the pool system because just up the road there's Agua Caliente, and they had the hot springs there at that hotel. And that little town is kind of unique. It's a dying place, but right now there's approximately 20 people living there, and we've met a good handful of them.
Yeah, because back in the day, that's where the movie stars and the business moguls went, right? They went to the hot springs.
Yes, the pool part of the springs is still there, but I don't know if there's an actual hot springs anymore.
You know, these people planned for an apocalypse that never happened. They spent almost their entire lives planning for doomsday, and it never, ever came. What do you think was going through their heads once they realized, like they're 90-some years old, that apocalypse was never going to happen? Do you think they were disappointed in some way?
It's hard to say if they were disappointed. They probably would have if that was their main purpose, preparing for the end time. I would say they probably were disappointed, but they would never have expressed that to anybody.
They just kind of kept it silently to themselves. Oh well, I just spent my entire life almost planning for something that never happened.
And to have left Canada, and boy, we have some bells ringing.
We do.
When they left Canada in 48 and it ended here in 2023, that's quite a long time to have a group of people wandering around and finding their end place here at this complex.
After completing filming the next day, we're having our breakfast, bacon, eggs, and toast underneath the beautiful palm trees here. Thanks for making that, Karen.
No problem.
Feeding the chicken eggs, doesn't that seem somewhat cannibalistic?
This place is no longer open to the public. It is up for sale, and if you're interested, it's on Zillow. And I'm sitting under this little canopy where I first met some people that brought us to this place, and we ended up showing up about 4 months ago. And we love it here. It's so peaceful and away from the busyness of the cities, and it's just a wonderful place. And it's sad that it is no longer the children of light.
And an interesting fact is this land, this 80 acres, was once originally purchased for $1,300. Is that right?
That's right, without the building, yes, approximately that. And it was purchased in 1964. But yes, it is a wonder. What did they feel when they passed on, or before they passed on? But the end of the world did not end.
The end of the world never happened. Just the end of this video. For the children of the light, the apocalypse never happened. The light they eventually found was the light when they went to heaven. I hope you enjoyed exploring this place with Karen and myself. Don't forget to give me a like on the video, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is the Rockhopper. I'll see ya. Hey, Bunny. How you doing, bud?